Hi everyone and welcome to the Football Analyst. Today we're going to take a look at the Manchester City Football Club by focusing on their recent 3-0 win against Liverpool in the Premier League. A few things we're going to look at from that match are City's ability to control play from the back and control the game. Second thing is their simple but genius frontal press, which really thwarted anything Liverpool tried to do building up. They really forced them to play in a certain direction and on City's terms. And then just lastly, Jeremy Doku's impact. He was clearly the man of the match in this game and had a massive effect on the outcome and really troubled Liverpool down that right-hand side and through the middle, which we'll touch on later. But without further ado, let's get stuck into how City dismantled Liverpool. So City under Pep set up in his favoured 4-3-3 system. So this lends itself to a solid defensive unit with the ability to overload the midfield centrally and offers versatility with build-up play. With the three midfielders in Pep's system able to roam and interchange with each other to create a single or double pivot. So these midfielders in here, a lot of the time they stick very tight together. Sometimes Nico Gonzalez here can join in with Bernardo Silva and create a pivot, and Phil Foden can kind of sit in as a 10. It's very interchangeable, which makes it very hard to stop. And this helps progression and the ability to play short thrust passes through a press. Now, offensively, in the final third, it offers City a flat line of 5 against the opposition defence with a mix of either one of the wingers inverted and 10 pushing high. The 10 would be Phil Foden in this case, or one of the fullbacks provide the width and the other winger stays wide, or the wingers invert. It's very fluid, which makes it very difficult to stop. They also make sure they maintain a back three wherever possible. Just in case they lose the ball, they have 3 defenders back to stop any counterattacks. But as we move forward, we will look at how City were able to control the game from the back and build up in very Pep-esque style of play. So we'll take a look at that from a couple examples. So just firstly, when City are playing out against the now common 4-4-2 press, they opt to stay in their traditional 4-3-3 shape where teammates come very close and rotate to provide options and confuse the defence. Bernardo Silva often likes to come in between the centre-backs as well. They also leave their forwards, as we can see here, on the halfway line to create length and open up space ahead of the midfield. So the space they like to create is in here. So this big space here between the 10s or pivots and the centre-backs. A lot of space to play on the feet, a lot of space to turn and carry. Their forwards also tuck in sometimes in an attempt to overload the centre-backs so they can create a 3v2 in this part of the field. This often brings the fullbacks in slightly, opening up space down the flanks for their fullbacks to progress into, which we will take a look at later in an example. So these things combined allow City to create angles to get the ball into midfield, but also the space to progress the ball after beating the initial press. A secondary benefit to this, which is worth mentioning, is that if there is a turnover, they have men back hopefully to cover any counters, just due to the number of players that like to come short in this part of the field. But we'll take a look at how this goes in action. So in this scenario, this is one of a few where City were penned into this particular corner flag. We can see how deep City are prepared to bring the ball to play and their players to play out. However, what it's done is create huge space where Nico Gonzalez is. So here's Nico. We can see they've really dragged Liverpool's front four totally up the field. And we can see the massive amount of space that's here. Gravenberch is over here because he's trying to stop any ball into Doku. Obviously, Doku was terrorising them at this point pretty much the whole game, which has also contributed to the space in midfield. So I think Guardiola there passes to Phil Foden in short, and Phil Foden's got the ability, once Szoboszlai pressed Guardiola, he's now got the ability to turn, and he often chose to hit Núñez wide So this change of angle forces Liverpool's press to have to shift all the way across while trying to recover and get in front of the ball, whilst giving Núñez more space to progress the ball forward. So we can see here, all of Liverpool's players are trying to get in front of the ball here. We've got Szoboszlai over here. Gravenberch is trying to recover position. Robertson was kind of caught in no man's land here. He was trying to either press up, but he didn't want to go too far. What it's done is it's allowed Núñez really to receive, and he's got the ability to potentially look forward. Or as we see in the next slide, after a bit of dribbling, as Wirtz caught up to him, Núñez quickly fires the ball into Gonzalez, and City can transition the ball out via Foden and Doku out the other side. So we can see even when Liverpool have shifted their press, Gonzalez still has a massive amount of space because McAllister and Gravenberch are kind of pinned back because they don't want the centre-backs being overwhelmed with Haaland and Shirky, who often tucked in. We can see Bernardo Silva's back, what he likes to do in case the ball needs to be recycled. But it's really they've really pulled apart Liverpool's press. As we can see on the next slide, the ball is transitioned out to Doku, and he's got the ability to really go at Bradley 1v1, really bomb down this wing. We can see that they've got even numbers kind of centrally in front of the ball. So City in a really good position here. And this method of playing out was successful a couple of times against Liverpool. The most notable from the match, for those who watched, being Nico O'Reilly's shielding of the ball against Salah next to his own corner flag before finding teammates who could move the ball out to Núñez. So this no doubt led to frustration from the Reds. Pep's trust in his players to take on this risk and their ability to identify where they need to be meant that the team was always in control, even if the progression wasn't as smooth as they would like. So that's how they pretty much played out with ease, really stretched Liverpool's press and opened up that space in that midfield third. Next thing we're going to look at is just their simple but genius frontal press against Liverpool. They really made Liverpool play on their terms and how they wanted them to play. And, sometimes the most obvious tactics are the best tactics, and it was quite clear from the beginning what Pep and City wanted to achieve with their press, and Liverpool really couldn't find a way around it. But we'll have a look at this one simple move that had such a big impact on City's fortunes. So to combat Liverpool's sort of 2-4-1-3 kind of system, City opted to set up in a 4-3-3, but the key change was that of Erling Haaland's positioning. It became clear from the beginning of the game that Haaland was essentially man-marking Van Dijk to force the ball into Konate at every opportunity. This led to Liverpool being ushered down one side of the pitch, which really played into City's hands as they were able to squeeze the Reds kind of on this flank here, this defensive half of the wing. And it the Reds really struggled to get through there. But we'll take a look at an example. So just to start with Erling Haaland's positioning, we can see they were kind of in the 13th minute here, so it's pretty early, but it's pretty clear to see what his role in the press was. We can see that he takes off really quickly to recover the position on Van Dijk as he is a bit late getting over to him. And we can see Konate's got the ball too. So Liverpool are kind of recycling in this scenario, and Haaland's trying to get to Van Dijk to stop the ball from getting out that way. As we can see, he makes up the ground and kind of curves his run. So he's kind of come in, once the ball's been played to the keeper, he's curved and stopped that ball being played to Van Dijk. So essentially, Mamardashvili has no option but to play to Konate there on the right. That was just a really clear example of what they were trying to do. This is probably a better example of how they really forced Liverpool down the right-hand side. So here Liverpool are ready to build out from the keeper. Haaland is clearly marking Van Dijk just here. I'll draw that a bit better. And City are leaving space for the ball to be played to Konate. So we can see Foden, he's not really pressed up on Konate. He's left him a lot of space to receive. We can see Doku is ready to press on Bradley. Silva's kind of lurking in here. He'll shift across and so will Cherky. O'Reilly's over here marking Salah, but as you'll see in the next clip, the ball is played to Konaté, who then plays it to Bradley, and we can just see the numbers City have moved over to the ball. So as Foden has pressed Konaté into making a decision quickly, so he can't sit on the ball, over the course of the game, he generally played it to Bradley, and this is where City were really able to put the squeeze on near the touchline. And once Bradley tried to pass down the line to Salah, who's very good at hold-up play, but he has been losing the ball a bit this year, and Liverpool in general have just been out of form. But we can just see the City numbers surrounding this position. So O'Reilly's there on the ball with Salah. I think that's Nico Gonzalez, who had kind of picked up Szoboszlai to stop him from receiving. Silva's come over, Doku's pressed Bradley, and we've got one of the centre-halves there who is pushed across to stop any real ball forward. So they were really able to force them down this wing, which seems simple. It seems any pundit at home would just think, why wouldn't you just send them down this way? Just stop them completely from going down one side and marking Van Dijk. But it's rare that you see something as blatantly obvious as that, where they really don't want a particular centre-half getting the ball. It tends to stand out a little bit, but they were very successful in making things very difficult for Liverpool. Liverpool really didn't have much progression at all out from the back in that first half in particular. But the real main man for the game was Jeremy Doku's impact. He was fantastic in this match, and it was kind of a change to how he's used to being played. I think we may see a lot more of this. It reminds me of something which I'll touch on a bit later at the end. But we'll take a closer look at how Doku was able to really become, a weapon of destruction for City in this game. So we can see Doku's heat map overlaid with the City players' average position on the field. He and Shirky, for that matter, were clearly trying to position themselves close to the middle. So we can see here, they've got a really tight group of three, which allows the fullbacks to kind of move forward into this wide area and create the width. Doku essentially was playing as a roaming 10, but starting from out wide. He would pick up half-space positions where appropriate, but he would also hang out wide where there was space. Obviously, there's a lot of hot spots here. There's also plenty of hot spots in the inverted positions. So that side of the pitch, he really tried to be fluid with his positioning, which caused Liverpool a lot of trouble, which we'll take a look at here. So this first example, we can see Doku was clearly holding his width out wide. Here he is over here. And because Nico O'Reilly has come into this half space, which is fairly common under City's Pep City, I think of Guardiola in previous seasons has played that fullback position and bomb forward. Bradley is not sure whether to stick tight to O'Reilly or to try and maintain a bit of touch, or at least be in Doku's sort of airspace there. We can see Foden has the ball in the middle, and he chooses to pass out to Doku, who can then bomb forward because he's got space, because O'Reilly has kind of kept Bradley tucked in slightly. So, this gave Doku plenty of opportunities to really take Bradley on 1v1. So oftentimes he would kind of be pushed down to this byline because Gravenberch was able to recover and sort of double team him, but it still didn't stop him from hitting that byline and creating stuff for City. In this scenario, he actually is able to pick a pass out because Gravenberch has moved all the way across to help double team, which has kind of left space in the natural 6 position where Gravenberch plays. We can see Szoboszlai is trying to make up that distance to fill in for Gravenberch, but the play is so fast that sometimes he can't get there. And we'll see in the next image that Doku is essentially able to pass the ball straight behind the Liverpool centre-halves into Nico Gonzalez, who and now they're in a really great position to score. So there are a couple of moments where he tried this. Obviously, we can see the space available here Even Nico Gonzalez's goal that he scored, he hit it from here and had a lot of space because the ball, Doku and players were able to drag Liverpool players out to this part of the field. So that was one way Doku was really able to really give Liverpool issues. The next scenario here, we can clearly see Doku has inverted himself now. He's almost joined the midfield line, and this has totally dragged Bradley out of position as he feels compelled to mark Doku due to the threat he gives City. However, this of course opens up room for O'Reilly to bomb forward. So we can see all the space behind Bradley now. The next slide, or the video in fact, we can see O'Reilly has been passed the ball, and as he receives, we can see the space that's been left for Doku. So he's been able to just pretty much roam down unimpeded and unmarked, untracked, because Gravenberch is so worried about the runs from midfield. He's trying to stop that run because Konate's role is really to come and help out Bradley, try and support in this space. And it's kind of left Doku free to pretty much receive this ball here and face up Konate 1v1, which is a very scary thing. You know, he's in this half space. He's got Konate with a bit of distance between Konate and Doku. Konate's also got a bit of distance between him and Bradley. Gravenberch as well. There's a bit of difference there. So there's spaces for Doku to attack either side of Konate, which I'm sure would be very stressful for him. And in fact, Doku does do that with no support really centrally to stop him. He ducks in, hits it on his right and smashes in a goal. So this type of movement is, as I mentioned before, is very similar. It's very Messi-esque, very false nine-esque of what Messi used to do for Barcelona. I think Messi kind of started more centrally, but he would also interchange with Eto'o and Henry when Pep Guardiola was there. And I wonder if Pep might bring this back this season and employ Doku, someone that's really good on the ball, has that low centre of gravity, very hard to get off the ball, and is able to be intricate with his teammates. I wonder if this is the start of Doku really becoming the top echelon of world-class footballers. Very scary for the league, and I hope he has a really great season. So there you have it, a quick analysis on how Manchester City and Pep Guardiola dismantled Liverpool in what was an emphatic win. City have firmly put themselves in the race for the title and among the clubs chasing Arsenal. Again, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you would like to support the channel and help it grow, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more analysis, as this would be very much appreciated. As always, thanks for watching, and may your team be forever winning. Cheers.